I didn't know how valuable our mountains were till I got to this conference. I've been in the mountains all my life and enjoyed them, but in a little different aspect. I never knew about the fauna and the soils and all the stuff that they're talking about here today, but it's been very, very educational. I enjoyed it.
So of the 190 endangered and threatened rare plants in Maine, 13% occur in alpine areas, and that's pretty impressive, that 1% of Maine's landscape can support 13% of Maine's rare species. But that also means that 87% of Maine's rare and endangered species are somewhere else on the landscape. And those rare species occur in a number of different locations, many of which are found elsewhere on the mountain. Things like wetlands, forests, outcrops, and cliffs. So I'd like to move our thinking beyond alpine areas to thinking about other habitats that you can find on mountains. Things like talus slopes, stream shores, and softwood and hardwood forests.
These people know that it will be damaging, ecologically and environmentally. It's going to be damaging when you disturb these high mountain areas, 4,000-foot mountains, with bulldozers and vehicles. There's bound to be a lot of erosion.
What I have to say is basically a challenge to all of you, after listening to these fine scientific presentations, to become activists. The elephant in the room, not in this particular room so much as in the whole conference, is the wind power, the set of wind power projects proposed for the Maine Mountains. This is going to be addressed by David Public Cover, so that's a somewhat practical proposal that has some relation to some activism that's going on.
Several people have asked me what I'm doing here, where I live. I said, I live just down the street. Well, why did you come here? I have one ear or both ears, hearing anything I can that are going to keep the windmills off the top of our pretty mountains.
But I want to start out with a little sort of informal poll here. I want you to think about wind power in the mountains of Maine. Think of a scale from 1 to 5, with 1 being wind power has absolutely no place anywhere in the mountains of Maine. 5, another end of the scale being climate change is such a serious problem that we have to build as much wind power as fast as we can, anywhere we can, exclusive of already protected areas like Bigelow Beds. So I want you to think of where you are on the scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being no wind power, 5 being as much as possible. And I'm just going to take a quick poll. How many people would put themselves at the 1 end of the scale? Okay, we have a few. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we have no 5s. Because as things stand, projects are evaluated on a case-by-case basis as developers propose them. And it really doesn't give you the opportunity to think about the big picture about where should that line be and where does any particular project fall on one side of the line or the other.
I'm not going to say that I'm against windmills for generating electricity, but where they put them. Learn the facts. Learn the facts.
Right now, LURC is in the process of revising its comprehensive plan for the unorganized areas. So this is an especially important time for the agency to be looking at the big picture, including mountain areas and mountain resources, and as we heard this morning, the fragility of the alpine areas.
We have been advocating that LURC essentially do a proactive zoning of mountain areas to decide which ones are too sensitive for development. They have the authority to do it, they have the ability to do it. It is a discrete number of areas that could be analyzed.
Public policy actions can come out of a conference like this. The 1972 Maine Mountains Conference led directly to the adoption by the Land Use Regulation Commission a few years later of high mountain protection zoning. And so it's fair to ask, what action is going to come out of this conference.
Thoreau is not the first, far from the last, to seek out the mountains of Maine for adventure travel. Among the pilgrims who come is a Harvard preppy named Theodore Roosevelt. The seminal experience of climbing Katahdin and tramping more than 1,000 miles through the Maine woods instills a deep conservation ethic in TR. As United States President a quarter century later, he will create 5 national parks, 18 national monuments, 51 national wildlife refuges, and 150 national forests. All told, he will protect 230 million acres, but none in Maine because there are no national lands here then. The Maine woods changes Teddy Roosevelt, and he in turn changes the world.
When I trace back how this ever happened to me, it's because when I was a kid in the city, we would go out to the mountains. We would go to Bear Mountain. That was the big thing. You took the boat up the Hudson River and you went to Bear Mountain. So the mountain was the special place.
Osprey, unswerving adult eagle, white head and tail shining against deep blue backdrop of sea and sky. Another osprey, graceful harrier, wavering in a light wind, a gray ghost. 2 sharp-shinned hawks, flap, gliding in loose, interlacing loops. Pulled onward by forces we barely understand, they're just doing what they have to do, going where they need to go, even the ones who have never been there before. The heart feels it. We have the urge to clap for this erratic parade. Sky gods have always clashed with mountain gods, clouds shrouding snowy peaks, thunderbolts striking random heights, charged ions forking through bedrock, splintering trees, wind flagging the gnomic pines.